Hello and welcome to our presentation. Today we're going to talk tankless. Before me here you see a couple of tankless units we have laid out. These are both staged up, ready for inspection and pre-plumbing. First thing you want to do when you receive your unit is you want to open it up, check the unit out, make sure it's in good shape, make sure there's no problems with it, and make sure you have somewhat of an understanding of it. Also, you want to make sure you get all of the paperwork and gather all the accessories that might be located in that box with the appliance. The next thing you'll want to do is inside you should find what they call a template. This template is a representation of the unit itself, and it helps you to hang the unit on the wall and gives you basically a template that you would mount up onto the wall and plumb it all up once you've determined your location of where the unit's going to go. Then you can install your backing and all the supports that you would need to actually mount the unit. From there, I'm going to take you around the side here and we're going to do a little pre-plumbing. Okay, let's do a little pre-plumbing. So the first thing you're going to do is remove your dust caps that were on your unit, protecting it from any bad things that might get in there. Most units come with those already on it. Next thing you're going to do is you're going to do what we call a little bit of thread sealant or Teflon tape. I kind of like a combination myself of a little thread sealant called Teflon paste combined with a little Teflon tape on top. So important you don't get anything inside the pipes. You want to make sure you keep it outside the pipes on the male threads, and you apply a little bit of thread sealant pretty much all the way around it. Same thing on the other side. So you're doing your hot and your cold, and you're going to go ahead and do the same thing. You got another connection here for your gas. You can do the same thing on that. And again, making sure you don't get anything inside the inlet of the pipe. And if you do, keep a rag handy. You can always just wipe it away and keep it clean. Because again, you just don't want anything in the pipe. There's lots of little valves in there and intricate flow things that you don't want to have any impurities or anything getting caught in there. It'll create you problems down the road. Now you go to your Teflon tape. Teflon tape, depending on the thickness of it, depending on the width of it, will depend on the rounds. But basically you start it with one hand, bring it around gently. 4 or 5 rounds is generally good. Again, it depends on the thickness of it and how well it goes on. For the most part, you start it. That sealant helps to lock it down a little bit and hold it in place. And then again, keeping this on the outsides of the threads, not letting it get inside the threads. You don't want any little pieces of tape or little chunks of Teflon paste or pipe dope or whatever you have to be using getting caught in your unit, whether it be the water inlet or the gas inlet. Okay, from here you're ready for hardware. Now you'll take your hot water valve. You're going to pull this out of the box. The handle's going to be a little tight, so you're going to thread a nipple into it. And bring it in nice and hand tight. Grab the handle itself. Work that handle back and forth. Just a quarter turn is all it needs to go. And that way you're exercising it, loosening it up. Okay. Now you'll take that valve, gently thread it directly on to your hot water outlet of your tankless unit. And again, you can thread it the majority of the way by hand. You don't even need to put a wrench on it until the end, until usually that last turn. So now you want to take your backup wrench and protect the outlet of that tankless water heater so you don't put any undue stress on that. Take your other wrench and bring this around, that one last turn, and you can feel it. It's getting nice and snug, which is exactly what you want. Now I'm going to leave this one just a little bit shy of the other one, depending on what my positioning is going to be, just to make it easier for me. Now I'm going to take my cold valve. I'm going to do the same thing with that. I need to wind my nipple in. And I need to loosen up this ball. So you just work that handle back and forth, loosening it up, making sure everything's working and doing what it's supposed to do. Now gently thread that one on. And again, for the most part, you can thread almost the entire way by hand without even putting a wrench on it. Once it starts getting pretty tight, that's when you want to deal with it as far as putting a wrench on it, not wiping yourself out. If it's hurting your hand, it's getting pretty tight. Now we're going to go ahead and slip our wrench up on the back side. But because we're reduced on room on this back side, I'm going to go ahead and show you a little trick here where you want to prevent this outlet on the valve from rounding or ovaling. So you're going to thread a nipple into it to protect it, and then you can use your wrench on the back side here and push this valve down and position it. Continue your positioning of your cold water valve. Now we're going to take it just past that inlet for the gas, so there's no conflict there. And as you can see, we're a little further than we are on this valve, which is okay, it's not a problem. Now you'll take your other fitting here for your gas, and we're going to thread that on. We have our little wrench, little adjustment. And again, good and snug. Doesn't have to be super tight. You don't want to break your wrench trying to tighten the thing up. Just get it tight. As you can see, you don't see a lot of strain on me. Now, I'm at that point that I'm as far as I want to go, that it feels like I'm getting a little resistance. So now I'm going to put a little backup. Just switch out here. I'm going to use my channel locks. And I'm just going to back this connection up so I don't strain it or stress it. And give it that last little turn just to make sure it's tight. Okay. Now from that, you want to take a look at it and see if how your alignment is on your valves. You'd like to have these parallel, so I'm going to go ahead and make a little adjustment here just to get these valves in a little cleaner position. About right there. You can leave it there for now. That looks pretty good. Good clearance, good access to the handles. A little bit out of whack. I can go a little further if I like. Right there. And that looks clean enough. Now from there, you would, depending on what your rough-in is, you need to run a nipple extending out of each valve, and that's going to make your final connection. So with that, I'm going to take a little bit of Teflon paste. I've already pre-plumbed my rough-in, so I know where I want to be with it. And I know that this nipple here is going to be absolutely perfect for what I'm trying to do. And again, take your Teflon tape. Show you a real easy way to do this. Take one finger, place it up here. Take your other finger, place it down, tuck it into your paste. Now you see the paste kind of holds it, and now you start your line on it, locking it down, pulling and stretching. And you can try to stay out of the inside of the nipple, right on the exterior of it, like so. Thread that in. And again, a little bit of paste, not a whole lot, just a thin layer, just enough to hold your tape in place. And again, I kind of like to reverse it as opposed to forward. Forward would be the other direction coming this way. It just seems to make it a little easier to keep that tension on it, give you a nice tight wrap. Roll those in. Always keep your rag handy. You'll always want to wipe your hands down or you end up getting Teflon paste and whatever goo you've gotten on your hands over everything, which is never good. Okay, now we need to tighten up this nipple. So on that, again, we've got our valves all positioned where we want them, so we want to make sure they don't move. So I'm going to put a little backup wrench on it, and I'm just going to use my channel locks. And I'm going to wind this nipple in. And again, you notice how I'm using the wrenches to work against each other. This one is in one position, this one's in a comfortable position, to where I'm working it together rather than getting them away from each other to where it's more difficult to control. And again, just wind it in nice and tight. Good. Okay, I'm going to turn this valve handle out of my way. Now this one, I'm going to go ahead and move the handle the first time out of the way. Put this guy on to hold him back. And again, snug up your nipples. Okay, now this unit is completely pre-plumbed and ready to be installed. What I want to show you though is sometimes on this one here, we have a nice wide spread on it. Real easy for the valves to go directly on, no problem. You'll notice this other unit, the valves, the inlet and outlet are a little bit closer and not quite as convenient as these. So in this case, what you would do is remove your dust covers, and because this is your hot outlet, it's already this side of the unit, I prefer to keep my plumbing inside the unit. So you would just simply Teflon paste, Teflon tape up that thread, throw on a 90-degree street fitting like this, and from there you would do what's called a simple offset, and you would thread on this other fitting here. And mount your valve set up here and here. So it'd be the same thing you did here, but now you've just done a little offset on it to make it more convenient, a little easier to work the valves once they're in operation. Okay, one last thing to install here before we complete our pre-plumb, which is called the relief valve. This relief valve is a safety valve. It's majorly important that you do not forget to install this. This is what protects you and your system from some sort of dangerous condition in your home. Very important this valve goes in. It is a safety valve and it does protect you, and it must be installed. Anyhow, installation, very simple. It threads into this fourth port of your hot water valve. As you thread it in, again, same conditions, hand tight as far as you can, and then a little backup wrench on the connection you're tying into. And again, wrenches working together as opposed to against each other. Well, maybe slip in there. And when you're tying this one in, basically you're just going to position it straight down, just like your other nipples are, because you want to have drainage off this. Never can this drain up. It has to drain down. It's part of the code on it, part of what's required as far as it being a useful valve. And also, if it's in a position where it's on its side or something and you get water sitting in there, it'll rot out that spring and it won't last as long as it should. So it's always best to downward position for the most part. Then it's going to drain off. Now we've completed our pre-plumb. We're ready to hang this unit on the wall. Okay, now we have our unit mounted on the wall. Once it's up on the wall, you're going to have your rough-in. In this case, this was a new rough-in, where you can make your connections and you get to choose where they're going to be so you can make it nice and neat and pretty and just the way you like it. But a lot of times you end up doing a retrofit or a replacement, and a lot of times you might have a water heater that's roughed in high. And basically it'd be the same scenario as far as connections to the unit goes, but when it comes to these flex lines, this is what would change. They come in a variety of sizes. They come from 2 foot up to 6 foot, 8 foot in length. And again, these are products that are available through Charmin, so you can always order these products through us as well. Next, I'm going to go ahead and connect the unit up. Basically, you've got your relief line here, which is your safety valve. One I said is very important to make sure this is tied in and has a downward grade to it. So all I'm going to use is use this flex line. It has a rubber gasket in it already, so you don't need any Teflon tape or paste. And you just bring it right up, kind of position it in, line it up with those threads, and go ahead and tie it in. So you want to bring it in nice and hand tight first, and you'll feel that that gasket will bottom out and meet that nipple nice and clean, and you can feel that it's tight down at the base, so there's no gap in there. Then you'll do the same thing. This is our hot water valve. I'm going to turn it to the side just to give me better access to that nipple, and do the same thing. Again, I've got a flex line. I'm just going to roll it up into place. Those threads where they start, and you kind of heard that click. You might have picked up on it. When those threads do engage, they tend to make a clicking noise when they're in the right spot. So that kind of gives you a hint as to am I in the right spot or the wrong spot. Okay, just tug that up nice and snug. Again, cold water valve, same thing. Relocate the position of the handle. Maybe give yourself some room. Start that female up. And again, you'll feel it bottom out. slack in it, nice and tight, looking good. Same thing on your gas connection. Bring it right up. And again, if it feels like it's not going on right, play with it, because you don't want to force it. It should go on straight and it should go on clean with very little resistance by hand. If it's not, something is wrong. So in this case, this one, my threading's trying to give me a fit, so I need to be a little more patient. Maybe put yourself at a little better angle. And there she goes. Now you see, again, nice and smooth. No fighting it. If you're fighting it, there's a problem. Back off. Okay, once you get everything wound down, hand tight, look at your unit. Everything looks clean. Everything's where you want it. Now you'll take your wrench, and you can snug each connection up. I'll start with the far side. Hit this one. That feels pretty good. Don't have to be super tight, just good and snug. And you can feel it. Now if you want to, I'm going to go ahead and show you on a backup. If you're going to back this up, you could back it up with a set of channies. And bring it in a little tighter. And bottom it out. Little channel locks. Snug it up. Nice and tight. Channel locks, back up. Nice and tight. Locks back up. Done. Now we're installed, tied in, completed, ready to roll. Now in this case, I got to turn the main water on. I would be turning this valve on to activate the unit. Set this unit off right now. So if we were going to activate, we would just pull this valve into the run position, pull this valve into the run position, and now we're operational. From there we get into our operation instructions as far as how does this thing work. Well, right now you've got this handle is in the run position. If you look closely at the valve, you'll notice there's a word run on the valve itself. That word run is just telling you, it's confirming to you, this is in the correct position. It also has an arrow showing you the direction of flow. So your direction of flow is coming into the unit because this is your inlet for your tankless water heater unit. Then you'll notice this third symbol here right in the center, which is basically a representation of the ball inside of here telling you what is flowing and what is not flowing and showing you where your inlets and outlets are. Basically, the ball inside of this one is telling you direction of flow is going this direction. The ball is in a position to where it has an open on the back side, but not on the front side. So that tells you this front side is closed and there's no flow on it, which is exactly what you want. Same thing with the hot, but the hot is reversed because it is an outlet. So the water flow on this one is coming out of the unit, flowing through, and here's your arrow, and here's your little word run, again jumps out at you in the run position, so you can read it very clearly. Now again, you have your position of the ball, and again the ball is showing you that I have flow coming this way, plus we have pressure on this valve, which we need to have because that's a safety valve. So when it's operating, that is necessary that you have pressure there. Now if we want to go into a flush position, we wanted to service the unit, first thing we do is confirm it's in the run position and gently take apart one of these caps. And there may be a little bit of water in there, but in this case there isn't. You drop that down. Do the same thing with your cold. Again, aware there may be a little bit of water in there. And we're clean. So that comes off. Now you take your hoses and you simply have two regular washing machine hoses is all you need. These ones are stainless steel. They're steel braided. A little nicer. But again, it doesn't really matter. Rubber ones are fine. Snug that on. Snug this on, and again, these you want to make sure these are good and snug, and they have a hose washer in there, a gasket, that should keep it fairly watertight so you get very minimal amount of leakage off of it. But you dump those into your bucket, and from there, now the only thing left to do is turn it into a flush position. So to do that, what you're going to do is you're going to turn your cold valve first, pull it up into the flush position where you read the word flush, and now what it's done is it shut off the flow of water going in, so there's no flow coming from here into the unit, and it's allowing all the water to leak out or drip out or run out through this line here, the hose, down into your bucket. Now you'll do the same thing with the hot side, turn it to the flush position. That now reduces or eliminates the flow out of the unit and takes everything that's inside the unit and allows it to flow out through this hose, right down into your bucket. And that is the position you will leave it in through the entire flush operation. Okay, now our unit is all tied in, back online, ready to work. The connections that we've done here, this is flex connections that we've used on this. They're very simple, very easy. They can look clean, but they're not the most professional, the most aesthetically pleasing that you would get like out of a commercial system. Sometimes you might be required to do what's called a hard plumbing connection. And a hard plumbing connection, most of the time you're going to be using what's called a union fitting. Union fittings are okay and they have their use and they're approved in concealed spaces or non-concealed spaces. And they're very quite popular fitting. But a better fitting that's out there is called a left-right connector or a union alternative. Basically, this is a new fitting that's an exclusive by Charmin. This particular fitting, it works like the old school left-right nipple and coupling. A lot of you older plumbers might be familiar with. This particular fitting basically is the same thing as a left-right nipple and coupling, but it's a lot more versatile. It's made out of brass. It's approved separator for dissimilar metals. It's approved to install in concealed spaces. It transitions you from threads to left, or it transitions you from a sweat to a left, and then gives you your breakaway. You can also use a reducer in there as well and incorporate that with the same fitting. So it's like a multifunctional fitting that gives you all of the ability that you would have had with the old school left-right nipple and coupling, but a lot more versatility because it worked with many other things. It's IOPMO approved, has a UPC stamp, UMC stamp, is on the IOPMO website, evaluations 0149 if you want to read up more on it. And now this is an exclusive fitting available through Charmin. Very good fitting, very tight fitting. If you're going to do hard piping, this is definitely the fitting we would recommend to you. Well, with that said, I'm going to go ahead and let you get off to that hot shower I know you're dying to get into since we've gone through all this hard work of figuring out how to install our unit. So thank you for staying with us. Enjoy your day, have a great one, and enjoy those long hot showers.